Hello and welcome back to the She Invest podcast. I am your host, Allie Fugit.
And I'm Carrie Douglas.
And we are She Invest. Today we're coming at you with episode 11, and we just wanted to come and give you some reality check-in with our hotels. And just kind of, again, in the trenches of what we're going through. And hopefully, like, our experiences can help someone else, because that's what this is all about, like learning and growing from others. So I'll let Carrie start with her updates.
Sure. So as far as just not necessarily our hotel project, but just wealth building through real estate in general, we just got back from Florida. We went down there to kind of close out all of our personal things at our first STR property that we purchased 2 years ago. We are selling it. By the time this airs, we will have closed, and we are walking away with a great profit to go do the next thing. So it was a really good weekend down there. Like, of course, I've been looking at this as an investment the whole time, but for the kids, this has been their vacation home. And so, they got to go down and do a couple last swims in the pool and visit to the beach. And we spent some time with our neighbors who have become our friends. And it was just a really great weekend. It was great to also kind of get away. So that was a really, really positive experience. I also can't say enough about like the estate sale experience and how much I've learned through that. So even though we had planned to sell our house fully furnished, with like all of our beautiful decoration and it really is good at attracting guests. The buyer did not want any of the furnishings. So we obviously didn't want to pay to move all of that across the country. So we decided to hold an estate sale. And the gentleman who came was just extremely professional, really helpful. It was a really interesting process. We had a couple people who didn't want to help us because we didn't have enough small items. It was mostly big furniture. But we found somebody who was willing to do it. And it's like a turnkey process where they come in and price everything for you and they remove anything that's left over at the end. So we really don't have to think about it. And that's been a huge relief. So that's been really, really good. Everything for that property is shaping up really nicely.
So, that's awesome. But that's like a cool process to experience and like have knowledge on as you're moving forward, because like for people that just like you that invest in different parts of the country, like they may not have known that could have been an option. And some people would have just kind of used their own time to try to sell the furniture or hold a yard sale or something leading up to the closing. But an estate sale is like pretty smart on your time and obviously on a return that you could get.
Yeah. I mean, they obviously make a commission on everything that sells, but I think it's well worth it. And they're coming up with the pricing, they're coming up with the marketing. So they deserve it.
Yeah.
So that's really good.
Yeah. And I think it's a good tool for listeners to use if they haven't done that process before. Is like, if you go in and you're not in Carrie's position where you're selling the house, but if you go in and you are purchasing a property that may be furnished that you don't want, and they're just not willing, they're just going to leave everything, remember that there's that option for you too, where you could essentially make a little bit of extra money you weren't planning on making, even by allowing someone else to do it, make some money on it as well.
Yeah.
It's a great tool, especially you could do it too with larger, even after you do your depreciation on the property. For large commercial hotels, you could do the same thing and have them come in. They're really willing to take a lot of, especially that big used furniture. So
yeah, well, and that's actually a perfect segue into how things are going at the hotel. So we are planning to use that same strategy after that experience we had in Florida. I was like, oh, okay. When we get a little further along here and we're ready. I mean, the hotel we purchased came with furnishings. I don't think we're going to need any of it. And of course, we walk in and we're like, oh, what are we going to do with all this? Right? We're going to have to get dumpsters and stuff. But I'm really, after this experience, I am definitely going to try to, I don't want to have a sale. I don't want to list stuff on Facebook Marketplace and have to meet people at the property. And then if they don't show up or whatever, that is not a good use of my time. So I think we're going to use the estate sale strategy there also to go ahead and clean out everything that the seller of the hotel left for us. And so that'll just help us start with kind of a clean slate. And there's a need in our community for this type of stuff. So whatever doesn't sell, I'm really excited that they'll be able to take some sort of a charity. It's obviously easier for us to just toss it in a dumpster, but that's, not what I want to do with it. I don't want to fill a landfill with stuff if I don't have to. So I'm really happy that we kind of learned a bit about that process. So that's a little bit about the hotel, I guess, is that we're going to be starting to clear out what the seller left for us. We also are working on opening up our pool. So because we're in Wisconsin, it's not open year round. We winterize it. Normally you would have it open by like Memorial Day. And because we are still in renovation mode, we don't have guests there. We didn't need to have it open by a certain date. So we're opening that over the next week. And it won't be open for guests. It will be like, we're going to label it as the pool is closed, but we are unwinterizing it, I guess I could say. So that we can check all of the mechanical pieces and make sure that anything that needs repair gets repaired this summer, so that when we go to do our grand opening next spring, that we won't have any of those problems. So we're just going to go ahead and it won't take the normal amount of like maintenance and cleaning, because it's not really going to be used very much, but we'll go ahead and fill it with water and assess everything. So yeah, we went on over there yesterday. And I actually wasn't able to be there. So my husband went and turned on the water to that building. And apparently some valves were left open, because when they winterized it, they opened up all the lines and then blew them out with air to make sure there's no water left inside, so that nothing would freeze and burst the pipes. So all these valves are open, and we didn't really know which ones were and weren't. And so he turned the water on, and water just went everywhere in 2 different buildings, just water everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
So they went ahead and like, okay, well, now we know, like we closed them all back up. And we do have one area that needs a plumbing repair that actually is leaking, but everything else was just like left open. So now that that's all taken care of, so we'll have a plumber there tomorrow taking care of all that. And yeah, it's just real life. Like,
yeah. But now the plumbing situation is going to help you like with some other rooms too, right?
Yeah. So we already had a plumber scheduled to be there tomorrow to work on a few of the rooms as well. So we're just going to have him work on that piece of pool equipment at the same time. So I actually, we're still in the phase of like we have long-term folks staying in our property while we're working through the renovation phase. And so that's who we've got. We got some plumbing repairs to do for them.
Yeah, that's great though. But like again, like important update for, this is the first episode you're listening to. Carrie bought the property with long-term tenants in it, and currently, while she's like finishing out capital raising and everything, she's just allowing them to stay and pay the bills, which is the perfect plan while you're still trying to figure things out.
That's great that you summarized that in case people aren't familiar with the backstory. Yes. So it's great to have a cash flowing property while you are trying to capital raise and begin renovation. So that has kept things really stable, which is helpful. And there's a need for it right now. We have a housing shortage, so there's not enough long-term places to be. So it's been a win-win.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also important, like for new listeners or like for people that are kind of they just see the front page story of things. They don't get to a lot of the background details, like what we're doing. Not everything is sunshine and rainbows when you come when you come into these larger commercial properties. It is a lot less sunshine and rainbows than single family homes, especially when you get into capital raising and things. So on the front page, when you see all these people like raising capital and things like that, don't think that it's easy, because we'll just go ahead and tell you that it's not. Also, don't think that everything comes to them at one time, because in most cases, and what Carrie and have both been learning through our journey, is that a lot of times these things come in stages,
Yeah.
and you have to be prepared with multiple plans on what you're going to do to move forward. And so, and I'll share my updates on that in a minute, but it's it's not what was expected from the glam that you are
Yeah.
presented through a lot of other people.
Right.
So
Right. Before
just
you get
wanted to
started.
point that out there. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just wanted to point that out there, because it's fun, and it's worth the wealth building strategy. It's worth going this route, to if this is the route that will get you to, your goals. But you do need to be prepared that this is not something that is an easy task,
Yeah.
and that everyone can jump into, because it is mentally exhausting,
Yes.
when
I
it
was
comes
just
to
going to
it.
say, like, having mental resilience, right? So, like, every time there's a hurdle in front of me, it would be really easy to be like, oh, nothing's going right, everything's wrong, and to just get frustrated. And instead, I'm just like, I feel like I'm trying to keep it very simple, touch it very lightly, like, okay, here's the problem, here's the solution, boom, next. Like, I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm not going to sit here and think about it. It doesn't matter that water went spraying everywhere. We have a plumber scheduled tomorrow. Focus on that. Like,
Yeah.
plumber's going to come. It's going to be fine. So I'm just trying to, like, each hurdle, like, not let it wear me down, I guess, because I know there's going to be more. There will be so many more. Um, and so having that like mental strength to keep going, even when it's
Yeah.
challenging and when it feels like nothing's going right, has been super important. And I'm not perfect at it, but I recognize when my mindset is starting to, like,
Right.
shift negatively, and then I do what I need to bring it back to the positive. Earlier this week on Tuesday, I was over there and I was like, okay, I have these 3 little tasks I'm going to check on. I know I'm going to go there and just do these quick 3 things. And I was there for 2.5 hours and completed none of them. I, like, was able to start and then ran into a problem, and then had to go, call this person and get that contractor scheduled. And then I went to the hardware store, and then I came back, and then I got to, 2.5 hours later, and I was like, none of these tasks are finished. I haven't made any headway. Like, and
Right.
so it gets mentally exhausting and frustrating, to be like, hold on, how have I spent this much time at the property in one day and accomplished 0 things, right? But I learned some things. I have a very uniquely laid out property. It's across 3.5 acres, and it was built in 1960. And I don't know what kind of opioids they were on when they were drawing up floor plans, but, like, stuff's in really weird places. And so I never know, like, where's the shut off for this, or where, so, like, and it's not like I'm over there trying to do the actual contracting myself. Like, I'm not claiming to be in construction, right? I just happen to be a little bit handy. But I'll go over there with contractors and they'll ask me, like, we can't find the shutoff. And I'm like, if they can't find it, how would I have known where it was? So
Yeah.
we're figuring it all out. But yeah, some of these things that they did in 1960, just, like, not
Didn't make
what
any
we would do
sense.
today. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
I mean, when we experienced the same thing with a water shutoff valve, and we couldn't find it, and
yes.
it was across the street. It was across the street
Oh my God.
on, yeah. So, like, I feel you. And you look for it and you can't find it.
Yeah. So it's just, I mean, it's just keeping that, like, mental, like, attitude very positive, and when you hit these negative things, just figuring out how to keep yourself in the right headspace. So that's what I'm up to this week.
Yeah. Well, I think it's in the words of Michael Jordan, is what challenge are you willing to accept for your growth right now? And
Yeah.
so like, what, and that's where we're at, right? We have the mental toughness to say that we are not going to allow these challenges to define us, and we're just going to move forward, but also we're willing to accept them for our growth. And yeah, like, and it's fun after you look back on it. It's fun, and you can laugh about it. But
Yeah, you laugh to keep from crying right now, and then later you'll actually laugh about it because it's not as painful anymore.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, do you have any other updates for us, Carrie?
No, I think that's it right now.
Yeah, that's good stuff though. Like, I don't have a pool, but I'm interested because my next hotel purchase will be at the beach, hopefully with a pool. So I can't wait to like hear all the things that you go through with that, so that I can
Mhm.
learn from you
Yeah.
um, on moving forward. Um, especially with especially if we buy an older one and all the water cutoffs and where they're at, like if they're
Right.
in
Right.
the buildings and stuff like that.
Mhm.
That's interesting to know. Um,
And in Wisconsin, I don't know how the regulations in Wisconsin are pretty strict about how commercial pools have to operate. Like
mm,
what types of equipment, what types of chemical feeding system you're allowed to use, how often chemicals have to be checked, how often it has to be cleaned. All of that is very strict here. And I wonder if it's because we only use pools, 3 to 5 months out of the year, that it's not like second nature to us like it would be for Florida, right? Where you're just like, oh yeah, it's very natural for every hotel along the beach to have a pool, and it's no big thing. I don't know if that's why, but it seems to be like very intensely regulated. And so this year we're not going to be subject to that because we're not letting guests use it right now. But I'm working very closely with a company, instead of training my staff to do these pieces. I'm working very closely with a company who does only this. And this is what they specialize in, because I want my people to stay in their lane, and I want to use someone who, this is their specialty, because I don't want to get into any sort of trouble with the state for not using it properly.
yeah.
So that's just a piece of like a little nugget there, like to do the research on what the commercial pool regulations are in whatever state that you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point because a lot of people probably didn't know that. You go on vacation and you see the pool boys doing their thing,
Yeah.
but you don't think about, like, at least until we got into this business, we didn't think about like, oh, that they're contracted and that's probably a regulation and all of
Mm-hmm.
this. And now, of course, when we go on vacation and we are going in the next couple weeks and we'll be going to somewhere that has a pool on site, and not just that, but like when we go now and we're going to the hotels and everything, we're just like also, and it's an investigative journey at that
Yes.
point, right? As we are researching everything that they're doing.
What are they
And
using for shampoo dispensers in the shower, right?
yes, yes, yes. How many towels did they leave us out? And
Right.
because, we booked for this many people. And also, like, what is their staff doing? As I'm like peeking in the rooms, one of our coaches said a really funny story one time. Emmanuel Pani, and he also has like boutique hotels, and he goes to these hotels and he'll just like sees a room that's open and he'll just like accidentally walk into a room that they're cleaning just to see like what they're doing, right? And he'll be lost for a second and then pretend to speak a different language and walk out. And it's it's funny, but yeah, but like remember that if you are getting into this business or you're looking to get into this business and you're traveling, like do some investigative research while you're out, because you never know what you're going to find or what questions you're going to come up with that could help you or someone else along the way when you're going through. Because I also want to know, like, um I want to ask like the front desk people when we go there, like, oh, like what hours are you working, and like do you get vacation days and like all this stuff. And so I'm
Yeah,
just like, I'm asking all the questions and not feeling bad about it at all, because
exactly.
I just want it from real life people.
Yeah.
But yes,
Can
so
you write off every future hotel stay if every time you go to a hotel you're doing investigative research for your own property? I'm just kidding.
that's
But that would be
that's
funny.
that would be a good question though. Like
Ah,
technically, yeah, I don't think so, but I guess if you were looking at purchasing it, you know,
uh,
you know, but yeah, some updates on what we're going through. I've got a few. Uh, the first thing is we are at the stage for ours where tile and flooring and everything is going in, and um, my husband and I actually decided after. like looking into some things and like when our furniture is going to be in, we decided that we were going to do two, one of each style room that we're going to be doing, and we're going to do sample rooms. And something I learned from Kristen Strogren with On Design, and this is what she's been doing, and it's been very helpful for her. So what we'll be doing is staging two rooms. So we've tasked our team with, before they move forward with anything else, that they're going to finish these two rooms so that I can get furniture in, put it in, make sure everything's good. Like that way, even if I have ordered all the other furniture and I don't want it or it doesn't fit, we can make that adjustment during that time and switch and send things back.
So you're basically making a model room for each of your floor plans, one each, and
That's
then testing everything out inside that room to make sure that the flow is good and that it all fits before you go ordering 50 of everything.
That's right.
Awesome. Yep. That's so smart.
Yep. Yeah. And so I've been working on that. But the big thing was that we tasked, again, the contractors to finish these two rooms. And they're just on the bottom floor, so it's easy accessible for furniture and stuff like that. Because again, we don't want to get anything big in anywhere. But they installed the first room's floor, and it's wrong. Now, we've been doing this a long time, and we should have known better. But we trusted this contractor. We have 12,000 square foot of flooring out in our parking lot. It's like 9 pallets worth of floor, and it's the wrong floor.
And so is it the wrong color, the wrong material, the wrong everything?
It's the wrong color. And of course our team members are like, oh, this floor looks so good. And then I'm like, it's the wrong color. It doesn't match anything I have going in. It's going to make this place feel so small. Like, no, we can't do this. And also, like, I think a big thing is with the style hotel that we have, again, just like Carrie's, it's like a 1960s build, but it's all concrete structure. So for those of you who don't know about concrete structure, because it was our first time with this, you don't have a lot of lighting options because everything is concrete. Okay. There's no drop ceiling for you to use, nothing. Like if you have lighting, it's coming from some type of lamp or the back wall where the vanity is, just because that's how they did it at the time.
So you don't have overhead fixtures in the room.
Right. And there is no way to put up can lighting or anything because it's all concrete. Mm-hmm. And if we were to do it, we would have to create a faux ceiling, which would lower the ceiling.
It's going to feel claustrophobic.
Exactly. So for the rooms, lighting is very important. Okay. Because we do have big windows, which is a plus in the rooms. But we had to figure out some way to add extra lighting. So the floor color in this whole aspect is very important. If the floor color is too dark, because the lighting situation that we have, it's going to make the room terrible, right? Yeah. The pictures are going to be terrible. The guests are going to feel like it's grungy and dark, and that's not the experience we want to get. It's not the experience I would want to go into.
Right.
So we need a very light colored floor. And I chose a very light birchwood sand color that also goes with the wallpaper. And they installed gray flooring, which doesn't work. And it's very dark. So
cold and depressing.
Exactly. And that's not the feel we're going for. If this was like on a beach with lots of blues and whites and everything, like a light gray color floor may work perfect. But for this hotel, dark, not a lot of lighting that we're already trying to fix and all of that, it just is not going to work. So our lighting situation, for those of you who may have the same situation, on the wall behind the bed, where we're doing the wallpaper, we added a faux wall. So they framed up a wall on that so that we could run all of the electrical through that wall. And so now there'll be scone lights hanging beside the beds.
Like sconces on either side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're choosing a sconce that's going to like illuminate better, not like that's going to, we don't want one that, Right. We
Not
don't
a
want them to
task light where it's aimed down for reading, but one that kind of disperses light up onto the wall and around.
Yes, and so it's probably more than likely going to be one that's like a cone shape that's like putting light up and putting light down, so that you're getting light going everywhere. But that's what we're having to do to overcome that situation to increase the lighting in the room, because we also are trying to save floor space. So I don't want a floor lamp there because of just the room layout and everything. A floor lamp I'm sure would be fine, but we are trying to squeeze a lot and the most value for our guests into the room, and it would take up space.
You don't want to use that for the same, yeah.
Right. I'd rather them have a chair and a lamp not be pushing on that chair. So that was one of the issues that we've been dealing with this week. So it's just trying to help and figure out the logistics of like, okay, like we've got to send all this flooring back, but I also need to know where the actual flooring that I need is. And like, how are we going to get that here? Who's going to pick this up? Like, what are we going to have them do in the meantime to prep to make this go faster?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. It's just all those things. So my recommendation to anybody going through this is get you a sample box and bring it to your hotel first, and just lay it out in your room and see if it's the right color that you need before you move forward, because we were very trusting. Again, we've done a lot of projects and we should have known better, especially on this large one. The highlight and positive is that this contractor is very understanding, and they're not charging a restock fee. So that's really good. They're just going to send it back to their warehouse. So that's the update on that.
So they didn't mess up. It was just you guys ordered something that that looked, maybe the color sample you saw online didn't look the same as when it arrived in person.
Well, we did get an actual sample, and he actually came to our house and laid samples out, and I chose from the color that I knew I wanted from the samples that he had. The problem was the sample that he brought didn't have a lot of striation or eyes in it.
It wasn't the full board. It was probably like a 3-inch piece.
No, it was a full board, but that one piece of board it wasn't busy. It didn't have a lot of striations, didn't have a lot of eyes. But when they laid it and all the boards came together, it was like some of the pieces were cut circular saw. It looked like different pieces of wood.
Yeah.
And because of how busy it was with all the striations and eyes, though, those are gray.
Yep.
And so it just made it look. Yes. Okay. And so it just didn't work. It just wouldn't work with the stuff. So, but we're working to resolve that, and we finally found the right one.
Yeah.
So we're going to move forward.
And I think it's important too to choose colors in the space you're going to be in, with similar light, or during the daytime when the light's shining in the window or whatever. Like I know when I'm choosing paint colors, I hang them on the wall and then I look at them at different times of day to see how they look in different natural lighting with different lamps on. And actually in the actual space, as opposed to choosing them at my house or at a paint store. It's the same kind of idea.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so now we learned our lesson on that. And again, like we should have already known, we're experienced in this, but sometimes mistakes happen, and we kicked ourselves, and again, it's our fault and we know that, but we're just moving forward to live another day and make the progress. But some other updates we have is I want to speak to like exactly what we were talking about earlier about like the lending and the funding for things. So of course every fairy tale capital raising story is that where your money's coming from before everything happens.
Before you buy the property. Yeah.
Right. And the reality is, for a lot of us that are in this, is that's not how it happens. Mm-hmm. And we don't know. We just know that this is a great investment, and that now we just have to push it. So normally, for those of you who don't know, when you go through this, like you're either having to use your personal capital to close it, or you are going to have somebody that that's going to come in and like help you bring the money to the closing table. But then after that, you got to hit hard on actually funding. the rest of the renovation and everything like that. And you only have so much time to get this done because usually your terms are so much a lower interest rate during a certain amount of time, or interest only payments for a certain amount of time. So we only have that time to get the money, to get things in, to get open so that we're cash flowing, so that we can refinance, so that we can pay off, like whatever your terms in your case is going to be. But so the struggles of that are our hotel still has a good sum that we need, that we're raising for renovation. And this has been a whole learning process. We broke our funding up for people that put money into the deal that just got equity. And then we broke the rest of it up for people that put money in the deal that just wanted a return on their money and so much time.
Interest only.
Interest only for renovation. And so that part has been the hardest part to do, is just get people in there for interest only. So knowing what we know now, we probably next time we will just split it up all equity. And that's fine. We are accepting again that learning curve. But the problem right now is like finishing up that funding, because things that we need to order now have very long lead times, but they take a lot of money to get here. And they are things that we absolutely have to make a hotel run.
Yeah.
So we've had investors come out this last week. We've got one that we think is going to go for it. But of course, and he's talking about bringing the rest of the funding, but now he's wanting equity. And so it's just like us trying to negotiate and give depreciation and find some equity to give this person so that we can have the money to finish the project. And that's been a struggle this week around those conversations. And those are hard conversations to have.
Tough conversations. Absolutely.
And, and making promises that you hope you can keep on, and working to keep, the promises and the things that they want. So that's the update on that. So everything's not sunshine and rainbows on our end. We are doing what we can to continue to move the needle forward every day. But we are ultimately reaching the point where we know we have a great deal. It's just, we need to find someone that has money that they need to park that is willing to just make some interest return. And so there's that. And then my last update is my first visit back to the hotel in a long time, because of everything that's been going on with
so a lot of work's been going on, right? But you haven't actively been at the property in a while, right?
Right. So my husband is he's been the general contractor for the job, because we do own a construction company. So he's the one that's been going and making sure progress is happening, while my job and my role has been the back end operations, getting the team set up, running our business here, as well as doing the ordering and sourcing all the items that we need to order. So I went up and we got a couple kid-free days, and I finally got to go up and see progress while these guys have been working. And I just want to speak to the emotions that I had going into that. Not seeing it for a while and then coming back and seeing what we've done was just it was amazing. I got emotional. We just stood there. My husband and I just stood there out in the parking lot, looking at everything. And this is after we walked the rooms. And I was just the building's being painted. We've got people in our town that we're working with that are coming to do murals, and all of that is starting. And we built this whole outdoor area, which is changing the whole ambiance of the outdoor space. And I was just pretty emotional. I was oh my God, look what we've done. We did this. And it was just a really inspiring moment. I feel I needed that moment to push forward, and we needed that win to say, all right, we can do this. We are 80% there. We just got to get through the rest. And
look how much we've accomplished already. Yeah.
right, exactly. I think you need those moments, and we talk about this a lot, like in different groups and masterminds that we're a part of, like making that list of wins that you've had, so that when you have the rough times, like what we've been doing, you can like go back and like, all right, I've accomplished all of this. Like I can go a little farther, and I can do this. And
I think that's so important not to breeze past that. What's the name of the book? Is it In the Gap or I was gonna look it up real quick. It's basically like this concept of looking back at like how far you've come compared to where you started, because so many of us who are very, and I've had a lot of people say, like, some really great mentors and people who have spoke a lot of positivity over me have reminded me of this in the past week, because I'm looking forward, like where I'm going and how much further I still have to go toward reaching my goal. And I have a lot. It can get overwhelming when you're looking up the mountain at like how much further you have to go, right? But like if you turn around and kind of look at like where you've come from and how much you've accomplished so far, it is really helpful at keeping you in the right headspace of like being proud of yourself for having made it this far. And it's funny. I was saying the other day, I was like, oh, I'm so chicken. Because I was not wanting to do this hard thing, and then I was like, wait a minute. I bought a boutique hotel. That takes a lot of guts, right? Like I'm not a chicken. Right. There's just something in front of me that I'm afraid to do right now. But if I look back, it just keeps it all in perspective. So it's so good that you guys are doing that. It's so important, and letting yourself kind of feel all the feels, right? Because if you get to the end and you don't take the time to do that, there's stages of grief with these things when the plan changes and you don't get to do what you thought you were going to do. There's so much of this that requires us to process and through those things.
No, 100%. And I can't speak enough to the growth that my husband and I have had to go through as business partners, as spouses, and everything like through this process, because it takes a lot of learning, like especially the stress part. Understanding and knowing, like this past week's been very hard for us. Speak to in just a second, but especially been very taxing on my husband, who's been having to deal with a lot of it at the hotel and on some other aspects that we've been working on. And it's like knowing when they've reached their limit and knowing when to step in and how to speak to each other during those times, and like also accepting what they're going through and how they're coming at you, but then also making decisions. And like, for instance, it's kind of petty, but it's like my husband, like the outdoor space, we've just created this beautiful outdoor space again that's going to change the whole ambience of the hotel. And he says, oh yeah, and we're going to put 57 gravel down in the hotel. And I was like, no, we're not. That's not happening. He's like, oh yeah, it's going to save us all this money. I was like, I don't care. We didn't make this beautiful space for you to put 57 gray gravel down in front of my hotel. Like, right. But it's like, again, but it's having that conversation, like, no, like, and I didn't really put it across that way. It was just like, no, like, that's my opinion is we don't need to do that. We've made this beautiful space, and 57 gravel is not par for that space.
Right.
And he's like, but it's going to save us this much money. And I was like, I think you're too focused on the money, and you're not focused on what the appearance is going to be and the experience is going to be. And that's what we need to be focused on. And so it's making those decisions, but also like understanding where they're coming from, like, because he is the one that mainly is, going through the financial situation on that end, because this is his side of all of that. But it's also grounding him in the goal of the project, right? And so it's been a lot, and all those emotions that play into it, and seeing everything. And I got to see like the game room coming together, and wallpaper's about to go up. And so like seeing all of that happening is just puts you in all the feels.
Awesome. So. By the way, I looked up the book. It's called The Gap and the Gain, and it's by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And it says most people, especially highly ambitious people, are unhappy because of how they measure their progress. We have an ideal, a moving target that is always out of reach. And when we measure ourselves against that ideal, we are in the gap. However, when we measure ourselves against our previous selves, we're in the gain. Maybe I should start focusing on the gain when I talk about this instead of the gap. I had it backwards. Yeah. But personally haven't read this book, but I've heard it recommended for this very reason. And so I'll probably have to add that to my list of things to focus on over the next few months.
That sounds like a good vacation beach read right there.
Yeah.
I need to read it too. I haven't read it, but our friend Cam Snyder that we've had on the show, she constantly reminds us of that, just like looking back at your wins. And I'm sure that's probably where she got it from. She's always my positive reinforcer.
Yes.
So,
yes.
No, I love that though. Looking at it as a gain, because it is. And we do like vision boards and everything. I have mine hanging up like right back here, and it's encouraging. So like when I have a bad moment, like, or every day when I come down, it's like the first thing I see when I come over to my desk, and it's constantly reminding me of like, literally this was my vision board for 2023 that we set in January. Is that when we went?
Yeah.
And
have you already accomplished half of it?
That's why I'm about to count it all for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I had 8 large goals, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them accomplished out of 8, and
that's amazing. Not even July. See, so look at that gain.
Yeah. Exactly. So I was talking to my sister-in-law, and like really like pushing this on her, and she was like, it's just so trivial. And I was like, you say that, but I'm telling you, like it's a necessity to me now. Like seeing you put something out there, you put it in place, you look at it, you focus on it, because what you're focused on is where all your intentions and your energy will go. Like, where, what does Mike Strogren say? Like where your
focus, grow, energy flows.
There you go. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. That's what it is. Yep. And so, so that's just, I'm living by that right now. And so 6 out of 8, that's
huge. And we're not even halfway. We've just not even halfway through the year.
I know. And I'm like telling myself now, like, did I even set them high enough? But like, but it was like purchase a boutique hotel, and like, and all the things that go with it. Grow my team, and my team has grown from one employee to 4 employees now, and it's not even June. And host a meetup in my area, go on a Disney trip, become a coach.
Yes.
Like I've done like all those things. And
awesome.
So it's just, I should have set bigger goals for myself, but I was.
No, because by doing this, you get to feel like you're making progress, even, when times are tough. So,
yeah, absolutely. But so if you're out there and you haven't done a vision board, like just like research it and look it up, and like just go on Canva and throw all the pictures of things that you want.
Yeah, if you go on Canva and search for templates, like vision board template, it'll have like a plug and play. You just drag and drop some photos in there. 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like an arts and crafts project, right? No. Just hit print from Canva and you're good.
My vision board from last year was on a Word doc, and I just had like all my goals typed out and just some pictures to like help remind me of what I wanted.
Yeah.
And that was it. So, but yeah. So, anything else you got for us today, Carrie?
No, this is a good update.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Yeah, really good stuff. So, if you have any questions about like what you're going through, capital raising, renovations, anything that we could help you with, please reach out. We'd love to share some knowledge and help you through any situations that we may have knowledge on. Also, if you know anybody that's interested in coming on and sharing their wealth building strategy, please hit us up, and we would love to extend an invite to anyone out there that would love to share their journey. But yeah, and so until next week, We'll have some special guests on next week, looking to share their journeys. And yeah, we look forward to sharing it with you. So until then,
See you later.
see you later.